Welcome to another Voice Lounge exclusive where I am sitting with men who don't need any introduction, but I think I would be paying them a disservice if I didn't. They are tenacious journalists. They are men who are known for asking hard-hitting questions and also taking the news to millions of South Africans. I have here with me a man who's actually given a nickname that, I really wonder how you feel about it. And also a man who's also now left the fraternity or is about to leave the media space and the journalist space and moving on to the law fraternity. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to welcome two gentlemen that I look highly to them when it comes to the space of journalism. This is Mr. Samkele Maseko, let me get it right, and Mr. Thulasizwe Simelane. Because we call it Samkelo, and now we put the Samkelo at the end instead of the le. But gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us at the Voice Lounge. Welcome.
No, thank you.
Great to be with you.
Thank you so much. I saw your interview earlier on as well at the studios, and we were like, "Yay, we've made it!" We've got two gentlemen there who know how to get the news to the people, how to ask the questions as well. And my question to you, let me start with you, Samkele. What made you go into journalism, and was it worth it?
One of the things that made me to go into journalism was my family background, growing up in a family that was largely highly political, involved in the struggle, and that orientated my political, ideological, and sharpened my critical thinking skills. And ultimately, after bombing out of civil engineering studies, I decided
that's what happened.
It's time to go for what I know and what many people said is your calling. And ultimately, watching the likes of Thulasizwe, Simelane, Xoli Mgambi, Mzwandile Mbeche, Miranda Stradum, Sophie Mukwena, and many others, such as Tammy Dixon as well, covering political and international relations. I ultimately said, well, it wouldn't be such a bad idea. And having exposure to the likes of the late Xolani Kwala, who was, in my view, one of the top pioneers when it comes to the journalism and broadcast space within the country, and also being able to host a bilingual show of English and our Nguni language, it ultimately gave me the perspective that maybe it's time I go into that particular space. And don't regret, I was comfortably shadowing and mentored by Thulasizwe Simelane.
Yes. Listen now, so you are here together now, and we're literally talking about you as almost peers on par, and you mentored him.
Yeah.
How is that journey for you now, sitting with him here, and here we are?
You know what it says? I've been in this for too long. if my mentee is now as senior as he is, and as well respected as he is, what does that say about me? How old am I in this whole industry? But I mean, I think for me, it was always a natural path to go into journalism. I have early memories of getting into trouble with my mother when I was supposed to be doing homework, but I'd be sitting there emulating and trying to read the news, put a stand and a desk in a corner. Growing up in rural Mpumalanga, you've got a candle. We used candles. It was before electricity was almost universal. It sounds romantic now, but I mean, it was a simple existence back then. And I remember encounters where my mother, the next day when I would be scrambling to do homework in the morning, would be saying, I think when you were supposed to be doing your homework,
you were busy.
Reading
the news there.
Being Sbongile Sokolo, Nokolo Khrotbom, you knew the news now, and also that I think for me, and part of it was I had to make the choice actively against pushback of people who were saying, you are so good at the sciences. Why not become an engineer? In fact, the engineer was the big one. I remember my teacher saying, no, you can be an engineer, and then you do the radio thing as a part-time thing.
Side job,
I'm so glad I defied them and said, no, it's going to be radio first and anything else. And the likes of, looking up to the likes of the late Cyril Bongani Mkhunu, Kansas City, Abomandla Malakwane, those for me were the voices on the radio, and Ukhozi FM, Current Affairs. This is transition South Africa around, I think when I was about 14, around 1994. And you could hear these guys were grappling with big issues, political violence. There's now negotiations, and these negotiations are being disrupted by these guys There are homelands that need to be integrated. I'm young, I don't understand it all, but I'm fascinated by this world. And that's how I started taking an interest. Only later did it crystallize that what I want to do on the radio is news and current affairs. Initially, it was just to be on the radio.
And now you made it to radio and you transitioned on to television as well. How was that journey for you then?
Sure. By media has always been an SABC thing.
Yes.
So when I was about to go to TV, never really appealed to me. Even at varsity, I was very clear when peers rushed to the TV stream because glamour and being on TV. I went radio and I learned radio the old school way. I remember my lecturer was a lady called Jean Dutoy at Rhodes University. She rode a bicycle and it felt to me as if she lived and existed for the medium. So when I was about to be deployed as the bureau chief of the SABC in Zimbabwe, they were certainly not going to send two of us for me to just do radio and then the other person does TV. That's when the transition happened. And strangely enough, I actually came to enjoy TV. And sometimes it's a toss-up. And I ask myself, which one do I enjoy more?
Which one
radio
do you enjoy
or
the
TV?
Which
Should
one?
I make the confession?
Yeah, which one?
I have to be honest with myself. I think I enjoy TV more.
Nah?
I don't know why. There's something about it, about commanding, especially when you're working with great crew.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yes.
When you turn, they turn with you.
Yeah.
When you point, they know what you're pointing at.
When you're working with a camera colleague who truly
man.
understands and who narrates the story, who doesn't need you to show them the direction, who is involved in the story. When you mention somebody, when you mention
They go for
someone, they go for someone. Or if
Yes.
you don't see that particular person, you just see with the swift of the camera going to that person, and that person is telling you, no, move away from that person. There's Julius Malema.
Sorry,
Speak.
And also sometimes they challenge you in the shots that they give you, such that you have to dig deep now and be creative. I have to live up to this shot that this guy has given me.
True.
And they're telling you in the ear that I'm going to bring up this shot now. You're going to have to talk to it. That challenge is enjoyable, but radio made me, though.
But would you say, though, the way you're describing television, that it's more exciting? Would you say it's more exciting or more challenging than radio? Or
Look, the bit of radio I'm doing now is exciting.
Yes.
Because it plugs me into the conversation with South Africa, something I had never really had the privilege of doing. I was always the guy coming in, telling my story, leaving.
Yes.
Now I'm forced to sit there for 3 hours and hear what people are grappling with on a daily basis, challenge my own perceptions and thinking about issues.
Yes,
so it's
yes.
more exciting in that sense. But in terms of creativity, I have found TV to challenge me more. When you go and you are reporting and you find yourself, one of the scenes we are in the pit in Zimbabwe where lots of bodies were buried in a most gruesome way. Sure, TV will give you the visuals and you can shock people with the visuals, but TV won't be able to tell what it smells like. And that's where the challenge of creativity on TV comes in. You now have to make the other person feel that I'm not just seeing it, it's not wallpaper. No, it exists, you see it.
Yeah.
There's sound around it, so the wailing, the sobs of the family is somewhere in the background.
Yes.
But you have to complete the picture by saying, this space you can only, and covering your nose where you need to.
Yeah.
That's why TV is more challenging.
One of my lecturers at WITS speaks about the featureization of news and how news has become more or less like writing a feature. Even when you're broadcasting, you've got to narrate the feelings of the people, the emotions that you are seeing, your surroundings. It's more like when you're narrating a story on either radio, for instance, which is much easier.
Yeah.
It's like you're sitting down, taking a pen, taking a paper, or taking a laptop, and you're writing a feature, being descriptive of what you are seeing, the surroundings, the feelings of the people, what they are going through, the texture, the smell.
Yes.
And that ultimately gives you that opportunity to narrate a story as opposed to writing it. And radio gives you that latitude that TV may not give you.
Yeah.
Definitely what they call theatre of the mind.
Yes,
there.
absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
because now you are building this picture for people to understand. Now, Lord of the Media. The title I was talking about.
Bow and scrape.
Lord of the Media. Like, we are not worthy. Are we worthy? How do you feel about that title?
On that particular day, it was a very traumatic, painful experience. But in the weeks after,
yes,
the various meetings had been taking place at our previous employer.
Yes.
I became to understand the pressures of the lady or the leader of the time of that particular organization, what she was going through. For instance, she was faced with a period in which where there was that suspension of Pulemabe, the then spokesperson of the ANC, on those rape allegations. There were issues against Zizi Godwa as well at the time. There were issues against Ace Magashule, whom the ANC did not want to go out to the fore due to that book of Gangster State written by Peter Louis Mayberg, revealing the allegations of corruption, state capture against Ace Magashule within his province. So she was faced with a lot of problems at the time, and it was taking its toll on her. And ultimately, feisty, young Samkele Maseko, who just rocks up and asks anything he wants to ask without fearing anyone, would ultimately irk any person who's faced with those.
I don't know why you say feisty. This guy was an in-your-face reporter. It was his brand of journalism, and I enjoyed it, right? And I remember we talked about it, and I said, I really like your in-your-face. People don't know what to expect from you.
And the thing is, I feel like we need more of that in South Africa, because I feel like at some point, people felt like journalism was dead, in the sense that people were not asking the hard-hitting questions. People were not pushing far enough or hard enough to say, we actually want to know what's going on, what's happening here. And, obviously now, people might be irked by it, but for us watching, we're like, yes. Ask the questions. We want to know the answers. Because we always feel like in our political landscape, people are always moving around the question. They'll answer that first before they're getting to the actual question.
There's a lady that I met during, that period when marches were starting in this country about Zuma must go.
Yes.
It was a contentious period. Where state capture was becoming a thing and people were talking about it and it was being challenged. Is there state capture? What is state capture? How is it different from ordinary corruption, etc.? We attended a community meeting. It was at the Johannesburg City Hall, beautiful old school building. And I was exhausted at that time, because you're in the center of the storm and you're being pulled in various directions. There's an elderly lady that had come to that meeting with her child. I don't know her name, and I wish I had taken her name. I keep her in my mind because she said to me, Mtanam, continue to ask those questions. When you ask those questions, you are asking for me. So sometimes when you face pushback and you are told you have an agenda, I remember that lady and say, she said to me, continue and I know that I'm not always on the right side of the questions, right? Sometimes I ask a question and later on I reflect and I say, was it a fair question to ask of this person? But the questions have to be asked.
It's those moments that ultimately say to you, if an ordinary person who is from a village, from a township, an informal settlement, who says to you, I like you, the questions, as Thulas is saying, you're asking relevant questions, they're getting us the answers that we need. You then begin to say, I've done my job, I've informed society.
Yes.
If those in power are irritated by what I'm asking, unfortunately, it's not for them. It's for the greater good of the country and of the nation.
It's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the beast. And I'm also a firm believer in devil's advocate journalism. So if you hear me on the radio, half the time I ask questions where I don't believe what I'm asking. Honestly, I don't. But I know someone else does. So therefore I have a duty to adopt it.
You're speaking for someone else.
And say, but how about this?
But if you look at South Africa's journalists whom ask those particular questions, in most instances you find that it is the electorate or the supporters of that particular individual who will believe that you've got an agenda against that particular person.
That's true.
But the individual themselves and you will have a perfectly fine relationship. I always say to people, many people ask me, you and that guy, you seem as if you're very hostile to one another. And I say, would you believe if I were to tell you that after that particular segment, I had a glass of wine with a bottle of wine with that
person. Or they come and shake your hand.
Or we have a chat.
They get the job
They get the job at hand.
Yes.
And they realize that if I don't get asked this question, I will never be able to portray my side of the story in a manner that is believable. So it's a catch-22 situation, but also it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yes.
You get the opportunity to throw those questions at them. They get the opportunity to respond. And it is up to the person who is at home, who is listening in a car or wherever, to deduce and to tell whether this person is telling the truth or this person is lying or there is a balance of probability of whatever they are saying. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship that is very contentious at times.
Yeah. What's really fascinating for me now as I'm sitting with you here is, you have access to the highest offices at times. You have access to,
He does more than me.
But you mentioned the presidency just before. You had to call the office of, listen, my flight. So you have access to just the normal citizen as well. And you have access to thought leaders in the country. With all of that, when you visualize and you see South Africa from that point of view, you have all these different elements that you put together. And you know what the thought leaders are saying, you know what, the highest office is saying, you know what, the ordinary citizen is saying. What is your vision of South Africa moving forward, just from those little tidbits that you get from these different entities?
Where we are a country at a crossroads. I want to choose my words very carefully. These days I try to avoid trouble.
You choose peace.
We're a country at a crossroads. The truth of the matter is that we're a country at a crossroads, and I always tell people that if they thought that President Cyril Ramaphosa was coming to save them after the ANC's 2017 conference, and ultimately Kwede Mantashe would say, we are meeting at the Buffalo Stadium next to the Buffalo River, being addressed by the Buffalo himself. It was here in East London in 2018.
It was.
But I'll say, no one is coming to save you. And ultimately, your savior is yourself.
Sure.
Government is an enabler of an environment for you to save yourself. And you must be able to operate within that environment. And if self-introspection does not begin with the ordinary person sitting in Tanzania at NU11, there is no one like Princess Fago or Oscar Mabuyane or Zamani Solo or Helen Zela or Ellen Windy who's going to come and save you. You've got to take up the initiative to say, I need to get out of this situation. When I get out of this situation, my ward, my community, my township, my city gets out of the situation that it's in, because it will ultimately culminate in me influencing the next individual. The next individual influences the other to ultimately build a nation. So I would say that we need to go back to citizenry. And once we go back to citizenry, that is when we can ultimately build our country afresh again, build our cities afresh again from the deplorable state that they are currently in. If we don't do that and we think that someone who is shouting the loudest slogan will come and liberate us, then we're fooling ourselves.
I must say, when you mentioned the whole Buffalo, I felt like that was a good marketing strategy. We were sold proper marketing and we believed it. And I'm speaking, you know what? And I'm speaking from a point of just an ordinary citizen watching, going, I'm looking for change. I'm looking for something better. I'm looking for someone who's going to speak for me, or, just show me a vision. And I felt like that was a great vision that was sold.
Politicians are good at packaging what they get as feedback from the public. Even now, it's happening as we speak. So if the current moment has taught me anything, I think one or two things. Let me not put a number. Maybe I shouldn't put
could be more.
Things. The one thing is, we all could be listening more to each other from empty. And the radio show that I do has taught me that. Listen from empty. Because I'm a believer in the Constitution. I believe this is our only consensus, and society needs to be founded on some kind of consensus. What's the alternative? We bash each other out, and whoever is strongest governs and rules.
Wins, yes.
I've seen that working. It doesn't work out so well. I visited Somalia some years ago, and it seemed to me at the time it was a state where whoever has got the biggest guns is the government of this particular area, this region. So the region where we landed, we were protected by the militia of that region, but he couldn't guarantee our safety at the next one. That's not the version we want. I've seen dictatorship. I've lived in a dictatorship. And I know that many people think they can live in a dictatorship. You can't. A lot of us, being freedom-loving South Africans, we wouldn't thrive in that condition. So my sense is our democracy is not perfect, clearly. Our constitution is not perfect, clearly.
Yes.
But it's the only consensus we have right now. It's up to us to adapt it. It shouldn't be... I don't want to use a big word. Shouldn't be sacrilegious. It shouldn't be,
we'll allow you.
It shouldn't be taboo. Yes, that's the word. It shouldn't be taboo to talk about adapting our constitution to our current situation.
Yes.
I have a lot in that constitution that I'm unhappy about. I would want a constituency-based system in this country, have a directly elected MP. But until we arrive at that point where we convince each other enough to say, adapt this, adapt that. Lastly, let me quickly mention this idea about listening from empty and empathy.
Yes.
Being the constitutionalist that I am, there were certain views that I held quite strongly. For instance, I'm comfortable anywhere in Africa, guys. Mina, on this continent, all 55 countries, I'm at home, having traveled. I'm yet to arrive in an African country where I felt like I couldn't live here. I could live in Tanzania easily. I could live in Senegal very easily. But I've had to listen to the people who are saying there is a problem about our immigration system.
Yes.
It's broken. Who say, I've had to learn to say, saying that doesn't immediately make you a xenophobe. We have a lot of xenophobes. We have them. But not everyone who says, take charge of this situation, control it, such that it's not... When they point out, for example, the issues around if someone commits a crime in this country and they leave, where are you going to find them? I've had to listen to all of that and say, perhaps listening from empty is important, hearing what they are raising without agreeing to their tactics and their methods.
When you throw a curved ball to you, what makes you South African? Where does the Simelane family originate from?
Yes.
Because ultimately, all of us came here through the migrant labor system.
Regional links.
It's only a few like the Khoi and San who can argue that they are the original inhabitants of this beautiful country of ours. Most of us, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, came through rail on the migrant labor system from the SADC region and the broader diaspora to come and work in South Africa. So the issue of pure South Africans, those who come from elsewhere and who are ultimately born within the country, many of us, you may find that our grandparents were not South African, but we are South African because we were born here and we were socialized and culturalized within the customs of either the Xhosa nation, the Zulu nation, Bapedi, so on and so forth. So it's an integrate and very fickle debate that I don't think needs to be held, but I do agree that there needs to be greater border management and immigration management.
Just listening to each other without labeling each other. Because you remember, people throw labels at each other.
All the time.
What? Anti-majoritarian. Remember, there was a point where...
Anti-majoritarian rule.
Where we had to live with that. So when you label someone, you're no longer dealing with the clever blacks. You're no longer dealing with the substance of what I'm saying. Because you don't have to listen to me, I'm a clever black. You're no longer listening to what I'm saying because I'm a xenophobe. But you're not really hearing what I'm saying.
So they're already blocking you already.
You're not hearing what I'm saying. So I think we could all listen from empty.
But just lastly on this particular point, the issue of xenophobia has different levels. We will first start characterizing each other Zimbabwean, Malawian, Zambian. Then from there, we'll start characterizing each other, Zulu, Xhosa. Then we're going to come, whether you are from the Ciskei or from the Transkei,
Yes.
and which is the ultimate problem that we are facing today and as a country. Wherever you go to Limpopo, there are those tribal wars between those who are Tsonga, Bapedi,
Yes.
who are Venda, to say which is the dominant tribe and which tribe. Unspoken tensions in that province, and who should ultimately rule, which is what I would ultimately also argue is happening everywhere else in KwaZulu-Natal. Those who will say that we are pure Zulu, who are from the north, we are part of Isizwe Saka Selembe, Saka Shaka.
Yeah.
There will be those who are saying, no, you are part of Amandwandwe, you are part of Amaluchuli, who are from the south of the province. And those tensions ultimately brew themselves. And the fire, the temperature is just heightened to the levels that we are currently seeing. And that ultimately breaks a nation.
Sure. Lastly, I know I have to let you go. It has, so far, it's been an amazing conversation to have. But, I think because I have you here, I would love to hear what your vision is for South Africa. Let's say in the next 10 years.
Sure.
I mean, even next year we're going to the local government elections. This year we are dealing with the GNU from the previous elections. So it seems like the political landscape is changing. We're still not figuring out if it's changing for the best or where we're going. But what vision do you have for South Africa, let's say in 5 years, 10 years' time?
So I'm hoping, let me speak of what I hope for.
Yes.
I'm hoping for South Africans to take more interest in the governance of their country. Doesn't sit well with me that when the Constitutional Review Committee was doing its work, not the one that was about Section 25, but the one that does it regularly,
Yes.
the participation levels were low. There are many reasons. It could have been publicized better. I got the sense that, come on, guys, people don't know about this
They
thing.
don't know.
How are they
know.
to participate? But I'm quite passionate about one issue in particular in our democracy: youth involvement in our politics and electoral politics. I'm one of those people that say, if I could change one thing, I would make voting to be compulsory. If I could change one thing. We ask nothing more of you. Go on,
Just
live
go
your
and
life,
vote.
flourish for the next 5 years.
Yes.
But your country needs you to show up and vote. We don't care who you vote for. So much so that in my family, my 20-year-old, I told her that you don't have a choice. You are going to vote. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I took her on election day. We've got a picture, and we went and she voted. The reason I say that, I've seen people who thought I'm going to be disinterested. The system is rigged anyway.
Yeah.
Guess what? It doesn't get better, it gets worse.
And you can't complain if you don't participate in that process.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
But also the biggest thing for me is I want my kids to grow up here. I want them to raise their kids here.
Yes.
And for that to happen, the system needs to continue to have credibility. There's no credibility in a government elected by 30% of the people that could have elected a government. So once every 5 years, show up, vote. Then we leave you alone. And I don't know if we're doing enough. And I don't know if I'm doing enough to get your 17-year-olds about to turn 18 to 34 on the voters' roll. And I want to challenge myself to do more to try and get that right. So that's my hope and vision. There are countries I admire. In Zambia, they've changed governing parties 5 times at least. There is no security of tenure. You mess up, you are gone. They don't waste your time. And they make sure about
that you don't waste our time as well.
Even the one that's happening now, that's in government now, they know very well, and I've covered the Zambian election. They know. They were in opposition. I think when I covered the election, they were the 3rd biggest party. Now they're in government, but they know, mess up, you are out.
And that's how it should
That's
work.
my vision.
Yeah. I love that.
I just think South Africa has been depoliticized. It's been depoliticized to huge proportions. There's a National General Council happening now in the Northern Cape for youth formation. And I ask myself if any young person who is not a card-carrying member of that youth formation actually even knows that there's a gathering of so-called youth leaders currently in the Northern Cape charting and debating their future.
Yes.
And if you depoliticize the youth and just use them as voting fodder, you are basically depriving a country of its future. And as things currently stand across the board from all political formations, young people are just used as voting fodder and dwarfed by money that is ultimately displayed to them by those who are in charge of their political parties. And I include all of them, not to signal out any party, because they are all as guilty as those who are in power. And if you don't re-politically conscientize the youth, in South Africa, the stats today signal that there is a vast exit of young people to foreign countries abroad than the elderly. And that, for me, just screams that the future of South Africa is in the doldrums if that is not reversed. Who will lead the country in 5, 10 years from now? New alliance. One former president whom was recently at where I work said, new alliances form, and we're experiencing a phase where new alliances are forming. The current will ultimately either die, reform, or something new will be born out of it. But one thing is clear is that South Africa is not ready to have something that does not have the roots of liberation in it taking over. Thulasizwe once said to me when in our previous life,
I say a lot of things.
that
In our previous life.
that the future of the country will be born out of the current. I didn't believe it then. I strongly believe it now that the future of the country will ultimately belong to those who come from the liberation of the country.
Yes.
When I say liberation of the country, it can be AZAPO, it can be PAC, it can be ANC, it can be IFP,
Yes.
and all other political formations who fought for the freedom of the country. But the current form and shape is unfortunately not the future.
Real?
Gentlemen, deep words to think about. But I think for me, the message I got out of your last words was that we need to get the young people involved to make sure that the future of South Africa takes on a different course for the better.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. V.
Thank you very much.
And congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hitting the right notes right from the start, right from the get-go. A great initiative that you've launched here.
Thank you so much. The Voice Lounge appreciates it. And hopefully we'll have you again some other time. Or we'll follow you where you guys are.
As you can see, we're
we've branded you already.
He's branded.
You stayed away from but you got the colors. So we're happy. We're happy.
No, it's the colors of liberation. Green
But we
means
also got colors of
prosperity.
liberation. Look at this.
okay then.
We're present. Thank you so much. And, have a safe journey home.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, this is an exclusive from the Voice Lounge. Kamalamding Miss V, and it has been a beautiful and thought-provoking conversation that we had today. Looking forward to meeting you guys again, and have a safe journey home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Voice Lounge, where voices come to life.